Hello, everyone. How you doing? You're very welcome to this week's uh, CASTLEREA Cavaliers basketball podcast. And today we have, as always, every week we have Tomas Callaghan, the player and coach with the club. And yeah, so what's the latest? I suppose we start off with the men's this week as usual.
Yeah, we traveled to Donegal. We made the long trip. There's, I think every team in the league has their away trip to Donegal that they try and get organised for every year. So we had ours there Saturday evening, and we traveled with six. There was boys. It's that time of year where there's kind of stuff coming back on early February. Football is back. Some lads had gigs and different things that they were at. So we traveled light. We had six which is not ideal going up to Donegal. It's rare you go up there and come away with a win. So going up at six was not ideal, but we went up and we just said, look, we'll go with what we have, and we've nothing to lose. The way the season's gone,
Yeah.
and that by itself, let alone going up there undermanned. We've nothing to lose. We said, look, we'll stick together. We'll rotate the minutes. We'll and just go at it and see how we get on. Now, we landed up and they were undermanned as well. You could say they were missing Dylan Muldoon, who'd be their biggest scoring threat. So that was a reprieve for us, thank God. And so we went out and we kind of knew their threats. Um, we set up with two at the back. I left David Quinn and Joe Fleming at the back of the defense protecting the rim. Because without Dylan, we were kind of like, okay, we can send them inside a bit here, chase them off the 3 point line, and Quinner and Fleming would deal with whatever tried to score in around the basket, and that's how it turned out. They had one big guy who was causing us trouble. I don't think we'd played him before, but thankfully for us, he got ejected. He got two technical fouls for a bit of mouthing to the ref. So he got thrown out of the game in I think it's end of the first half, I think it was. So things were, even though early in the evening when boys were kind of saying they couldn't make it, things were kind of starting to come back our way once we arrived in Donegal. Um, but of course, Paul McHugh, their point guard, who's just an absolute, um, you know, diamond from the 3 point line, and even further out, he'll pull up from just inside half court and launch it. He's a left-handed shooter, and I've seen it 1,000 times where you think you're playing good defense, and he just pops one in from about 40 feet. So he was going well. Eventually as the game went on, I just started picking him up, just as he came across half court, just to cut out that threat. So and then there,
How do you go about cutting out his threat? And I'm sure as well, to be fair to yourselves, that you were saying he was a diamond. You have one or two diamonds yourselves.
yeah, we sat in the 2-3 defense, but as like I said, as the game went on, I was in the middle of that three. I just started pushing out, so it was more like a box defense, and I would go out to him. So I'd leave the zone, if you like, just to keep the pressure on him and make him try and dribble around us, as opposed to just letting him pull up and shoot threes, because he'll do it all night. And we've had games against him where he has put up 40 points against us once he gets hot. So yeah, we managed him well enough. He did have his moments, um, but once we kind of took him out of his rhythm and made him try and dribble and put the ball on the floor, and once he was dribbling, I try and send him into traffic, angle my body so he'd go into, you know, uh, my wing player maybe to help me and maybe make him pass the ball, get it out of his hands. But then he had help. Owen McPartlin is a young star up there. He's 15 or 16, and he had 40 points in a game recently in our men's league. Like, so he's no joke. I think he had 18 or 20 against us at the weekend. And once McHugh gave it up, Owen McPartlin was just able. He has amazing dribbling skills. He's skinny and wiry and agile, and his mid-range jump shot is just beautiful. He has lovely floaters, lovely finishing. So he's just a really nice player. So he got success against us as well. But I think Owen, to be which was lucky for us, he hasn't just put on that bit of muscle yet or filled out. So once he did go inside to the big lads, his finishing kind of suffered because he had to try and finish around long arms and big bodies. So and we were able to get rebounds then. Of course, their post player getting ejected, and without Muldoon, they were kind of light underneath the basket. So we were able to secure rebounds and get out in the fast break. So our defense just kind of it fell nicely for us to have a great defensive game, and we took the chance. We just forced a lot of tough shots, and to be fair to the Donegal lads, they make a lot of tough shots, but we were able to limit it as much as we could have expected. And we got out and pushed the fast break, and we got a lot of success there. And they played a 3-2, so they had three along the back and two at the top of the defense. So that left us a lot of space on that perimeter, especially at the top of the 3-point line. And we got a lot of success. Down to 6, you're looking for lads to step up. And Darrell Lowry was massive in this one. Usually he'd come off the bench for us. I think he started 1 or 2 games, and he's really showing his development now. He had 20 points. Joseph Henry just pipped him with 21, but just a massive step up. When we needed somebody, we needed a spark, and he was just right there and took his chance. There was one stretch in the third quarter. We were 7 points up at halftime. So it was still in the balance. 7 points isn't really a lead. It's 2 baskets and you're back to 2 points. So
yeah.
But I think there was 4 possessions in a row where he got to the basket a couple of times, and then he shot a 3, and I think he had 9 points in a row by himself to stretch the lead out. Our lead went out to 16 or 17 points then, which that was really the difference in the game. Because I think anytime we play Donegal, I'll score a bit, Joseph Henry will score a bit, David Quinn will score a bit for us, and then on the other side, the lads I mentioned will score for them. But then it's about who else or for what team is going to, make the difference. And Darrow was absolutely the difference in this one. We played it was nearly, it nearly suits the team aspect of it more when you have less players. Everybody had double digits besides Joe Fleming. But I think Joe, he's a great manager of the game, great passer of the ball. Once he realized, the sort of game we were in, he just stood out, got on the ball, started posting up, making passes, facilitating the offense, and he had a wonderful game on defense as well. So once we chased somebody off the 3-point line and sent them into him, he was able to get blocks and get rebounds and just hit us with outlet passes when we ran. So it was we were as the game went on, I think we were a well-oiled machine. We were moving the ball well. Everybody was in rhythm with each other. And I suppose you might put that down to just having less players coming in and out, that there was a bit more, everybody was on the same page. I had 15, Danny Doherty had 14, David Quinn had 10. So, everybody had played their part. And when we really needed to pull it together as a team, the 6 boys that were up there, we really did. And we pulled away then in the end. I think the Donegal heads went down a bit once we pulled away after Dara's scoring run. So and we were able to pull away. We won 83-59 in the end. So
that's rare you come out of Donegal. Isn't it? Yeah,
it's rare you come out of Donegal with a win, let alone a win with that margin. So we were delighted. And now we're looking in good shape now to I'm not sure if we're still to make the top 4. We're looking for a lot of favors, but I think the mood in camp is really good now that we've won 4 out of the last 5, and we're definitely proving ourselves to, I suppose that we are as good as we think we are, and that we can take on the best opposition in the league. So we're right there. It is a shame we kind of started off the league a bit slow, but I think this half of the season the mood is good, the form is good, and we'll keep cracking on and see where the momentum can take us.
And I suppose really, there seems to be, not just in this game, but over the last couple of games since when you've gone on this winning streak. Now this is, I believe, your third win in a row, which is great. It's great to see that momentum. But I suppose for you as a coach, not as well as a player, the pleasing thing is there seems to be a bigger spread of scores. As in, it's not just the scoring isn't left to just 1 or 2. There's more of the players are kind of contributing to scoring, which is a huge thing, and that can be very important when it comes up against the likes of the Donegals and all the tougher teams, like I suppose Mayo and Ballina and teams like that. That's when that kind of thing will come to the fore.
Yeah, definitely. And we have guys who score the ball. Everybody can shoot, everybody can finish. And we didn't have Michael Henry for this one, but in the last 2 games against Mayo and against Athlone, he really stepped up. getting 8 and 10 points in a game. And I think that's like when in this league, everybody can manage a team that has one good player or two good players, or but then when it gets they have 3, 4, 5, 6, however many players that are just confident and able to beat one man and finish, or able to shoot confidence. I think that's really what separates the successful teams from maybe the less successful teams. It's because it's just harder to manage defensively. So yeah, personnel wise, like for Dara he had a great game. He's had a few good scoring games. We went out to Carrick before Christmas, and Dara Lowry I think he had 16 or 18 points. So he's well able. He just needs to keep that confidence going and keep his decision making solid. And then he's pushing for bigger minutes, and that's the healthy competitiveness that that sort of thing brings, and gives me a difficult job as a coach. But if a guy is scoring 20 points and doing his share of work on defense, then there's every reason he'll be in there for added minutes to what he's used to. So yeah, it's really good to have, and you have that, and it's just right through the roster. You're confident passing to anyone. You pull out a great pass and you're like, yes, this guy will score this shot, or you're not apprehensive about who's coming off a screen or who's getting open. We're getting to a stage now where everybody's confident with everybody else, or happy with everybody else. Everybody's sort of getting into a rhythm now. We have this play called Malibu that we run. But against Donegal, we called it twice, I think, to start. And then after that, we didn't have to call anything because everybody was just, in rhythm, and their spacing was good. They knew where everybody else was and where to be. So, yeah, I think that's what we can put the winning streak down to, is just a bit more offensive rhythm and cohesion as a team. And like you said, more lads popping up on the scoring charts with more points, rather than relying on one or two guys.
And I suppose from the players that start, and maybe even the players that come back, we've been on about plan A and plan B and the transition between both, and changing when needed. But it's I suppose the player that starts at any given time, it's not just about making switches from the bench. It's about maybe the confidence in you as a coach being able to slot a player from one position to another. I know that no matter what position that player goes into, they'll be familiar. I know they'll be at their strongest in their specialist position. But knowing that you can take them out of one position and maybe put them in another, and they'll be able to slot into that. Is that another thing you're happy with at the moment as well, or is that a thing that you do often?
Yeah, definitely. I suppose in basketball it kind of depends on size, how adaptable you can be to different positions. So, like, I'll play inside, I'll play the wing, and I'll play point guard as well. Joseph Henry, I had him the last day, and he had a great game, 21 points. He played a bit of point guard, played on the wing a bit, played a bit in the post. Taffy Kersulis wasn't there against that loan, but he's another guy. He can play all three. You could throw him in a bit of post play. He's more comfortable on the wing. Get him on the ball, and even Sean. I know Sean McDermott has experience on the ball in school, and I'd be confident enough to put him on the ball as well. So there is a lot of adaptability there, and we got to try them in different positions. Joe Flynn is our post player in chief. He fancies himself as a bit of a point guard sometimes because he likes to try his crossovers and see passes and stuff. But I've yet to experiment with that now in a game yet. But maybe at some point he'll get his chance. But yeah, and I think it's just in the motions we run. Everybody knows what their job is, or where they have to cut, or where they have to set a screen. But they also know all the other four positions, what their role is in that offensive motion, or be it your zone defense, where you have to be, and not just in the position you're playing, but where your other four teammates should be. And just that basketball IQ and knowledge is something that I think we have in depth, and yeah, I'm very happy to bring boys in, and if needs be, play out of position, and be happy enough that they'll do a decent job.
That's it, and I suppose that's good to have those options as well. But I suppose so from you as a coach looking at it, A lot done well when you consider that she only has kind of six going down, like you just said, maybe not a full panel that you would have liked to have had. That must have been hugely pleasing for you to come out with that margin of victory as well. But also, it's great to see that, and that gives a great confidence boost. Obviously, like you said, a number of lads to come back as well, maybe for the next game, which is great. But I suppose a lot done well. But are there any things that it sounds everything went well? But are there any things you think you still need to work on? Or do you think
Yeah,
the finishing art?
well, with that one, I
Yeah,
think with the Athlone game, I was happy enough. There's not really put my finger on that anything went wrong. We knew what we had to do on defense, and we knew that it lead to good offense, and that happened. So there's not much you can really think back on that could have gone any better, really.
yeah,
But just generally, I think our big thing is, maybe a higher pressure defense and man to man. I know we struggle at times against Mayo Meteor's man to man, and just decision making. I think there will be defenses that'll put it up to us stronger than Donegal did at the weekend. They're well able to play tough defense, but I think for long periods of that one, we did get a lot of space and freedom. So I think just decision making and making sure like we're confident now and lads are getting confident, but um, just managing that and making sure we're not overconfident or we're not just catching the ball and being like overconfident, just shooting it straight away. Just playing for the team and making good basketball decisions is what we're going to look for in the upcoming games to try and keep this run going, because we don't want to get ahead of ourselves either. And start, maybe being overconfident because we have good form now. We just want to keep it steady, keep it managed, and just keep going like we are.
that's it, and that's great to see. So who have you up next?
We're playing this weekend. We've Carrick Cougar at home. It's down for Saturday evening, but we're looking at moving it to maybe Sunday late afternoon, evening. So yeah, they beat us well before Christmas. They have one very talented post player. He's about 6'5", I think, Kevin Brady. And he's not just a big lug. He's talented. He can shoot the three. He can fit. His footwork's great. He's a basketball player. He can finish inside. He is lovely. His finger roll finishing, his hook shots, everything. So, and before Christmas, to be fair to us, we went down there. We had no Quinner, no Joe Fleming. So two of our biggest players, our tallest players that would probably manage him or at least give him the biggest run for his money, we're missing. So they beat us easy in that game. But this weekend now we have those two guys back. And that'll let me and Joseph Henry maybe push out from the back of the defense and get our running game involved. I think we were missing Sean as well for that game. So, I think it's going to be a very different game to before, just the personnel that we're going to have available to us. But now we can't overlook. I think we're guilty in the first half of the season of overlooking teams. So we're not going to do that. I know we've mentioned a lot on the podcast the last few weeks of, we're going to focus on ourselves. And I think now we can really do that with confidence because we're really going well ourselves. So we're just going to try and stick to our values, playing hard defense, get it moving on offense, and try and keep going with what we have. Carrick are kind of, I think they have a similar amount of wins to us, 3 or 4. So it'd be nice to get this one over them just to kind of put a bit of separation between them and us in the rankings.
That's great. And we'll move on to the ladies now. And how did the ladies get on?
We played Sunday at home against Sligo. Now, we lost, I think it was 40-18. So again, our score was left a lot to be desired. And I think we're doing a lot of things well. Sligo are one of the better teams in the league. To look at it now, and 40 points or 42, I think they scored. And then like some of those were just fire misses, fast breaks, so could maybe shave a few points off that to give up only maybe 30 points. Like shows that like we're right there. Things I thought McKee really hear me?
Yeah. So you were saying there about the ladies team, yeah, it was unfortunate you didn't get the win anyway.
Yeah. So we had good performances. Megan Keaveney stepped up. I've been really trying to make a lot of players less passive. Because we have a lot of girls who are so used to just kind of standing on the wing and catching and shooting when they're needed. But Megan really started coming high post and wanting the ball, looking to drive, looking to take her person on 1v1, things like that. Um, and Rachel Mulligan as well. Rachel Mulligan is kind of, for her whole basketball game is based around just getting on loose balls and her defense. But in this one, she had just good offensive moments where, catch the ball, and if a pass isn't on, look to attack and put it on the floor and try and make a play. And I think, if we get more of that through, because there's so many players in this panel just so used to, they're well able to play like and make a play themselves, but they're just so used to like maybe catching or being part of a rigid offense where they're limited just to catching and passing. But so we did have positives, but again, just the scoring output, um, shots weren't falling, offense wasn't clicking again. We had some moments of good execution. We've been working on a few man-to-man motions and coming off screens and things, but just a few bit of execution, slowness, decision making let us down on the opposite end, And like I said, 18 doesn't seem much, but or well, it isn't much, but just one basket at the right time can kick on momentum. So like for one basket, your 2 points might be worth 8 points to you because it might come off a sharp defense and you score and the tails are up then. And we just didn't have those moments, and it's kind of similar pattern in the last two games. So there's a lot of frustration in camp. Because they're probably, I don't know, Sligo would have been tough to beat anyway, even at our best, but definitely the previous two games, just where performances aren't where maybe we feel they should be at with the personnel we have, because we have a talented group. So now it's just about staying the course. We still have a shot at top four. We're in Longford Phoenix 2. We're playing them away this Friday night, and another winnable game. So we just have to go into it, dust ourselves down. And the big thing now is just not letting that frustration, and maybe impatience, fuel our decision making. I mentioned decision making there about the men's team and how we don't want overconfidence to affect it. But now it's the opposite with the women's team. We don't want the frustration or, we don't want people to be in a rush or playing angry, because that'll affect your decision making. It'll affect and affect the team as a whole. So we just want to manage it, and just trust ourselves and trust that shots will start falling. The offense will start clicking if we keep doing the right things. As long as we keep looking after the defense, the offense will start looking after itself. But just a bit of patience now, and we just continue trying to play as good team basketball as we can. And this Friday is definitely another winnable game. Hopefully it'll spur us on these few bad results to really go into it with a bit of focus and desire to get one win. I think if we get one, it'll build that kind of camaraderie and confidence back up to push on for the remainder of the game. So it's a race for top four now that we find ourselves in. We have 4 games left. So, it's really going to come down. I'd say it'll come down to the last one because there's a lot of teams in a similar, with similar amount of wins. So, women's team, bad results recently, but I think if we stay the course, and we get our shooters shooting and we keep moving the ball and just executing our offense like we know we can, the scores will start falling and we can expect to be right there when it comes to top 4 qualification.
And I suppose, being fair, so kind of from week to week, sometimes to get that consistency, you need to win on a consistent basis. It's about having the same. If you can have the same players week in, week out, because sometimes the player, how you play depends on the people you have on a given week as well. So do you find that maybe that has been an issue maybe in the games that you've lost, or do you still play the same style regardless of the starting team that you have?
Yeah, it was looking rough for us this week with numbers, but to be fair to Sarah Tyrrell came down. She's struggling with a bit of illness, and she still came down and played. Sasha Lavin has a bad ankle, still came down and played. And Danica Lavin as well has something up with her hamstring, still came down and played. So we had to manage their minutes. I gave them 3-4 minute spells each, and rotated them through the first half anyway. So credit to them. It's a massive. It means a lot as a coach to have players play through injury. For the sake of the team, to make sure we can compete, and they did that. And to be fair, like, they were out there and operating at 50% or whatever they were at. I think we got as much out of them as we could have asked for. And week to week, especially now with football back, girls are busy and work, and like our Leaving Cert girls are kind of there when they can be. So it's going to be interesting, and we're just going to have to try and come together as a group and be like, okay, each game we're going to go ahead with what we have. And girls are stepping up. I mentioned Rachel Mulligan, Megan Keaveney, Katie Murphy's another one who's always like willing to come on, shoot with confidence. And she had a good moments in our last game as well. Rebecca Kane as well is looking better. She had more minutes against Sligo. She had one incredible. She's still kind of coming off this knee injury, but she's very quick. She's a good athlete and she's agile. And she had one very impressive chase down block against Sligo where it seemed like they were getting a wide open layup, and she just put the head down, hung in the air, and managed to get a block on it. And she's not that tall, so it was an especially impressive play. So Rebecca's really will be somebody we look to bring that spark and energy to the game, because she did it in a small amount against Sligo. So hopefully in the remainder of the games we can see more of that. So we go with what we have week to week. It'd be great to get players that are signed up back around for at least one or two of the games. But we're very happy to go with what we have. The talent is there. Like I mentioned Sandra Kane a lot. Kerry Harkin, she didn't play the last game because her ankle. She's coming back from an ankle sprain, and different things. So it's even with what the players that are here regularly, I'm very happy to go ahead and compete with them. And I believe with that group and with that core, we can still push on and get this top 4 qualification. And hopefully, should we get there, maybe stir up the top 4 and maybe get a shock result in the semi, and then all of a sudden you're in a final. So it's right there for us. I think we just need a few small things to start going our way, and the feel good factor will come back, and hopefully, a bit like the men's team, we can get on a bit of a run into the end of the season.
And I suppose from the last game as well, I suppose the positives to take out of it, and I suppose the learnings from it, and going into the next game as well, because I suppose even though you kind of lose, with the positives that you take out of each game and the things that you're working on, do you feel, with all that in mind, do you think that a win isn't too far away, maybe even in the next game?
I feel like we've kind of been humbled in that sense. At the start of the year with the new additions to the team and the roster we had signed up, we were kind of like, oh, here we go, this is our year. Then as the season's gone on, that kind of has come. It wasn't as it seemed. So I think the last game was a lot more constructive. We tried to run this zoom motion against a man defense that we've been working on. And, the execution, like I said, sometimes wasn't the best. But at the timeouts, at the break and play, like we were talking about it, rationally and measured, X's and O's, breaking it down, and being patient with it. And I think that's another thing, patience with these things. And things will happen, because there was signs of good execution. All we need is an offensive rhythm, and girls will get open shots and score. We had one great offense where we rotated it left, got it to the high post, and whoever came off what screen, we got Rachel Mulligan wide open at the basket. I think Sarah Tyrrell found her with the pass for a layup. So the potential is there, and the ability and skill level and know-how is there to run a good offense. It's just about the consistency and people getting in rhythm with each other and on the same page. And I think that's been a challenge all year with the new players we've added in. But I think just keeping it steady, keeping the head screwed on, and just making the effort to get on the same page will pay off, because once we get that rhythm, once we get that understanding, I think there's so much talent in the group that it will, it will bear fruit.
And that's it. And of course, that momentum that both the men's team and the women's team has built up, carrying that over to the next season then will be a great thing. That's what you'd be kind of looking to do. And it seems that, it's great to see that happening, both the men's and the women's team starting to gel now. Yeah, it might have taken this until this stage of the league or of the season, but it's good to see things falling into place. So, any news quickly on the under-16s this week?
No game for them this week, so we were training there. They're on their midterm, so I was there.
No problem.
We'll there Tuesday morning for a while. So.
No problem. So you'd like to say thanks to your sponsors as always.
Yeah, as always, Magorty's Bar, Whispy's Discount Store, Amigo Transport out in Ballinlaw, Harmac Medic and Cahill Super sponsor our kit, and Bastion Kitten and Mike Callaghan Construction for sponsoring our warm-up. Sponsors. We couldn't do it without you, and we're very proud to have you on board.
No problem. Well, listen, thanks very much, Thomas, for taking the time out to do CASTLEREA Cavaliers basketball podcast with us this week, and we look forward to looking back on those games next week.
Thanks a million, Aidan. Chat you next week.
No problem. Thanks very much. And that was Thomas Callaghan, the player coach with CASTLEREA Cavaliers Basketball Club.